sitting there watching going, is somebody actually going to tee off or not? Good on him, that's excellent. Among those that are heading back to work in England today are, we now know, estate agents, as the government tries to get the housing market moving. This comes as we've had official figures as well in the last hour showing how hard the economy has been hit so far by lockdown. Sean's got news on both of those from the newsroom. Morning.
Yeah, morning to you both. Morning, everybody. So, in the last hour, we've heard that the UK economy fell by 2%, the size of it, in the first 3 months of the year. And that is, of course, because of the way our world changed in the last few weeks of March. That's had a big impact on the services sector, fell its most on record. And it sort of reminds us why we're talking, and so many industries are so keen to get back up and running again because of the hit to the economy and the hit to these businesses. And we can look now at what's happening to the housing market and the housing industry today. Big changes in England that maybe a day or two ago weren't expected. From today, these first changes that are coming in: property viewings, estate agent visits, removals, show homes can be open, conveyancing visits, all allowed. Since the lockdown, the only part of the housing market that's been allowed really were those totally necessary house moves. And everyone will have to abide by those key rules that we're talking about so often, about having to keep social distancing guidelines, wear gloves where necessary. And then some of the smaller print that estate agents have to abide by. Any high-risk homeowners will have to be away from the house during viewing. It's advised that anyone who's advised to self-isolate should continue to do so and not actually move home at the minute. And talk about the impact on the economy. There's been reckoned to be 450,000 buyers and renters waiting, unable to carry on with their plans to move since March. That puts it in perspective. We can get the view of an estate agent who joins us from central London now. Marc von Grundherr is with us. Morning to you, Marc.
Good morning.
A few things we're discussing this morning about the economy and about the bounce back. I just wonder for you, were you on the phone late last night when you heard all of a sudden that the housing market was up and running? Is today a day of excitement for you, or is it one step at a time?
No, I think it's a huge, exciting step for us. I mean, it's great news. They recognise that. I think they recognise that the property industry, the health of the property industry, kind of drives the wider economy, and it's very exciting news. Obviously, it's small steps because we're still going to be careful with social distancing and all the PPE required. But it's fantastic news because, as everybody sees, the property market has been in suspended animation for the last few months, and it's been incredibly hard to do transactions in spite of what's going on digitally now.
Is there a danger that estate agent businesses like yourselves and people who want to buy and sell their homes and get on with this are a bit gung-ho about it and maybe rush through and don't abide by some of these guidelines that are being put in place?
Well, I mean, I think there is a huge amount of pent-up energy out there, people desperate to get on and do this. I mean, people haven't been able to move. I know of 3 cases where people haven't been able to move. They accepted a new job, lockdown came in, and they couldn't even move. So that's causing huge issues. And yes, of course, people are in a rush. But I think companies like ourselves at Benham and Reeves and a lot of the wider industry are going to be very careful. Everybody is still frightened of the virus, and I don't think anybody would be stupid enough to be ignoring all the advice we've got. And we as a business, we as a business have got all the PPE equipment. We're ready to go, and we'll hopefully be open within the next day or so, and be out there trying to move people into homes.
Do you feel comfortable with the idea that somebody who may be higher risk, classed as higher risk one way or another at the minute by the government, could be looking to sell their home and even though they have to be out of the home during viewings, they're having lots of people coming into their home during the day? Does that sit easy with you?
I mean, I think there is a lot of talk about that. That's one of the things people were talking about last night. Should viewings still go ahead with someone living in the property? Whether they're self-isolating, but you don't know if they're self-isolating or not. People aren't necessarily going to go around telling everybody. And I think firstly, for anything that's empty, it's easy to go in and start doing viewings and respect social distancing. Where people are occupying, you hope everybody's being as sensible as possible. But there is going to be an unease. I think both the public and agents are wary with people living in properties. And so I think that, we've got to be careful and make sure we're doing it. And I don't know whether or not doing viewings while people are actually in the property is going to actually go ahead very much until this is out of the way.
we've seen these figures this morning that give us an indication of how the economy was getting on in the first 3 months of the year, and particularly as we went into lockdown. Seems like a long time ago, but can you remember that period? What was business like for you in those last few weeks of March?
Well, I mean, March was our busiest month on record, actually, and usually that's in the summer. I mean, we did more transactions than we've historically done, and there was the post-Brexit and post what Boris has done. We'd seen house prices starting to rise, we'd seen rents starting to rise, and a huge number of transactions. Clearly, the moment it came in, there was an immediate, everything came to halt. We're lucky that a lot of transactions didn't fall through. But and a lot of people are holding. Lawyers have still been able to do searches. Lawyers have still been able to do everything electronically. So those people that hadn't quite exchanged, that paperwork can go on. What we did notice before was this desire to get on and do it. I mean, we've been seeing what had been happening in Asia, and that had held a lot of people, making them want to get on if it was to get here and hit.
And we talk, about 450,000 renters and buyers who've been poised to crack on with what they wanted to. But do you think actually a large proportion of those will be taking a step back now? Because for many people, their financial situation will have changed, their confidence in what happens to the housing market will have changed over the next few months.
I mean, we're still seeing, I've got to tell you, even yesterday, Boris did the announcement on Sunday. We thought we were going to be stage 2. We still had inquiries on Monday and Tuesday of people saying they wanted to move. Can they see the videos? Can they get ready? And I think there is a huge, 450,000, maybe not all of those situations will have, of course, situations will have changed. But as things get back to normal, I think people need to move. It's not just people want to move. They need to move, and I think those people will move. There's obviously going to be reticence, and there's going to be an element of buyers thinking the market's dire, things are really bad, and making very low offers. But I think you'll end up with something like a Mexican standoff, where sellers will not reduce in the ways that buyers want to, and buyers will not get the deals, and there'll be that element of standoff. But within time, and I think within a couple of months, we will hopefully have returned to some form of normality in the market. But it's fantastic news that we're able to get out and start showing again.
Well, Marc von Grundherr, thank you for joining us this morning. I mean, that concept of a standoff, that isn't much use for the housing market if transactions don't actually begin to take place. So it might take a bit of time for a lot of these industries where they feel like they're getting up and running again in some way to get anything like the way they were before the lockdown began. Incredible to hear that estate agents are having their record month ever in March. That's the drastic change we're hearing about the economy this morning.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear that. Not exactly what I was you're necessarily expecting as well, but good to hear it. Thank you, Sean. Thank you very much indeed for that.